whose foreign ministry said it was expelling 17 Russian diplomats it considered to be secretly active as intelligence officers. Ireland's Taoiseach, the Prime Minister, and Michael Martin told MPs that his government had expelled 4 Russian diplomats after receiving security advice from its intelligence officials. Mr. Martin said the officials had been asked to leave the state because their activities are not in accordance with the international standards of diplomatic behavior. And off to Abuja. Well, 7 passengers have died after gunmen attacked a busy train between Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and Kaduna City, hospital sources have told the BBC. The gang mined the track, forcing the train carrying about 970 passengers to a stop on Monday evening. Gunmen subsequently surrounded the carriages and opened fire, according to what was told by one passenger to the BBC. An unknown number of passengers were abducted from the train, considered the safest way to get between the cities. Kidnapping for ransom has become commonplace across Nigeria. The Abuja-Kaduna highway is one of the most dangerous roads in the country, as kidnappers have been known to have ambushed vehicles at several points along the expressway. And over the last few years, this has pushed many to avoid the 150-kilometer journey by road, instead opting for the rail link, which opened in 2016. It is more expensive but considered safer as the trains have armed guards on board. This is the second time the rail line between the cities has been targeted in the last 6 months, but it is by far the most serious, says the BBC's Chris Ewokor in Abuja. And according to the BBC Hausa service, 22 people who were injured in the attack on Monday evening are being treated at a military hospital in Kaduna.
In the weather and climate news, wind and solar reach milestone as demand surges. Now, wind and solar generated 10% of global electricity for the first time in 2021, a new analysis shows. Now, 50 countries get more than a tenth of their power from wind and solar sources, according to the research from the EMBA, a climate and energy think tank. As the world's economies rebounded from the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021, demand for energy soared and demand for electricity grew at a record pace. This shows a surge in coal power, rising at the fastest rate since 1985. The research shows that the growth in the need for electricity last year was equivalent to adding a new India to the world's grid. Now, solar and wind and other clean energy sources generated 38% of the world's electricity in 2021. For the first time, wind turbines and solar panels generated 10% of this total. The share coming from wind and sun have doubled since 2015. Now, when the Paris Climate Change Agreement was signed, the fastest switching to wind and solar took place in Netherlands, Australia, and Vietnam. All these three have moved a tenth of their electricity demand from fossil fuel to green sources in the last 2 years. The Netherlands is a great example of more northern latitude countries, providing that it's not just where the sun shines, it's about having the right policy of environment that makes a big difference in whether solar takes off, said Hannah Broadbent from EMBA.
Well, I don't know whether the bottles that Robert is holding can actually try to help out with this coldness. Some good news for us. I hope the response to that is quite a positive one.
Well, when you look at these bottles, they have a term store in a cool, dry place, meaning they are not from a refrigerator. So one of the things that you need very much this time is, with the coldness sometimes comes a lot of flu and cough, and what these do is they boost your immune system to fight off a number of diseases. So when you take Hallelujah Tamarind and you take Hallelujah Ginger tea, these will boost your immune system. But I also recommend consistency consumption, and also they'll greatly improve just even your appearance. When you look at my colleagues here, the skins are so lovely, just because these ladies use Hallelujah Ginger tea because they have sweet tooth. And I recommend that to you also. You want to have a good skin. You want to always be happy, excited.
I don't know what the dermatologists have to say about that, but we're yet to find out. But as it is a routine, every single morning, we expect you to be part of the Good Morning Uganda show. And of course, we expect you to be part of our conversations. And that is where the poll question comes in. How can the refugee influx in Bunagana be managed? Now, we know that there's quite a number of refugees who are getting into the country in Uganda, fleeing from the Democratic Republic of Congo after the attacks by the M23 rebel group. Well, how do you think the influx of these refugees can be managed in Bunagana? That is what we are talking about this morning with you. And of course, your feedback is much, much appreciated. And we'll be reading it out loud as Good Morning Uganda goes on. But for now, we get into the inspiration of the day, the song that is going to get you out of that bed, get you off that couch to make sure you become very productive. I mean, it's midweek, so why not? Good Morning Uganda returns, and when we do, it will be the newsreel. Well, we'll be having the topical discussion. We'll be back.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Back. And not just bigger. Beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Nature that nurtures our life on Earth determines the geographical surrounding that should be protected and preserved by the community.
This is the time we partner with UBC and protect the environment.
Our Environment is a program that will showcase the importance of human responsibility in a healthy environment, that is to say, conservation, waste management and recycling, disease prevention, biogas to mention but a few.
Support the program Our Environment on UBC.
Inspiring Uganda.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
in Uganda, but well, that will not hinder us from doing what we are supposed to do. Good morning, Uganda, and thank you for joining us for this particular segment, the news reel, where we talk about the discussions which are surrounded basically about issues that are affecting us as a country, individuals, societies, and the general community. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and yet again I am joined by Robert Kirabo. Now, of course, as journalists, as media people, there are certain things that come into our faces. We talk about them over and over and over, but it seems like nothing is really being done about them. And these are issues that affect us as communities. Not so long ago, Robert, there was a video that went viral on social media and all social media platforms. And this video, what was in it was quite very disturbing, I could actually say. It was a woman who was really being battered by the husband. Well, I can say a husband, but they were cohabiting. And the domestic violence that was happening there, it was really, really, really terrible. It was quite, I could say, what the man was doing was just lethal. He was beating her, he was pulling out her hair and all that. But I mean, this is just one of those things that happen, and it happens to go out viral, but we don't know how many of these acts go around our societies, and we cannot figure them out. And just maybe probably to take you through, according to the Uganda Police Annual Crime Report of 2020, about 17,664 cases of domestic violence were reported to police, and this was compared to the 13,693 reported in 2019, giving a 29% increase. Now, what does that tell you? That the increase is actually on. It's happening. These domestic violence cases are reporting. And I mean, we've talked about this several times and on several occasions. But why is this happening? We have also seen other people come out in different city outskirts where different forms of domestic violence, especially towards the women, are being reported. Why is this really happening? Even despite the fact we have made noise about them?
Well, Philo, I like your introduction to this, where you said we've talked about these things over and over, and we shall not get tired to talk about them, because much as many would be interested in politics, domestic violence every year, according to police reports, we lose at least, per every 100 cases reported, we lose at least 10 women to domestic violence. So, young girls are dying. Recently on Women's Day, there was a report, I think it was released by Uganda prisons, and it showed that 200 women are in various prisons in Uganda because of crimes of passion that led to death. Now this means these killed their husbands, their spouses, or their boyfriends as a result of domestic violence. So this is a problem, just that sometimes we've come to accept it as normal. Some, it is cultural. Remember one time we had a member of parliament that was Mastiko, representing the side of Western Uganda,
yes,
who said it is okay to beat women. I mean, if you beat a woman, it shows you love her. If a man, but this was a member of parliament. Of course, later,
full legislator,
he was called and he apologized. But you see, this shows we still have that mentality. Now, yesterday, I saw a twist of events in Chief Magistrate's Court in Naweru, where Julius Matovu, the gentleman you've talked about, the man you've talked about, not a gentleman, the man you've talked about, who battered and kicked the wife who they had cohabited for 6 years, like a ball, kicking the face, plucking off all the braids. Now, when he came before court, I think realized that really, now things have reached another level. I saw him kneel before the wife in the dock and apologizing. But when the judge sentenced him to 1.5 years imprisonment over that, the wife or the lady they have been cohabiting with for the last 6 years pleaded with the judge, cried, begged before court, saying, now if you arrest this man, who will feed my children? Who will find school fees for my children? I believe my husband acted out of anger. But remember, she had left this marriage, she had left this home, because under the laws of Uganda, cohabiting is not a form of marriage. She had left this home for about 2 months and only was told, come and pick your property. Coming back, the man bounced on her. Maybe something that happened that we didn't know that caused violence to happen. So, when we look at domestic violence, we are losing lives, and much as the laws sometimes, I think here we saw the law quick to act because of influence of media. Because as the fourth estate,
yes,
when we bring out these things, we had Fred Enanga talk about it at the police mouthpiece. We had people come up. But how many of these cases, you've just given us statistics, that happen and go undetected or unreported? So, domestic violence is something, why am I giving that background, that we need to look at and address as a country. We have politics, we have drought, we have this, but give it the due support it requires from our society, from all our religious leaders, traditional leaders, or cultural leaders, you may call them, from religious leaders, because we have some faith or some religions that are creating a conducive environment for domestic violence. For example, I'm a born-again Christian, and sometimes my faith and reality conflict. I must be very honest.
What you believe in and what is actually happening on ground, yes.
For us, once you're married, it is till death do us apart. Or maybe when you found this person maybe cheating and there's conclusive evidence. But even then, if you're born again, we believe you must forgive, because forgiving is one of the virtues. So there are people who would be in hard marriages. We just have a pastor who said maybe this can no longer continue, but the bashing spiritually. So people have to be there, because no matter what the relationship is, it is until one dies. So when you go to some countries in the Western world, I don't know for Uganda if we've gotten there, that some may even murder someone smartly, undetected, because it is death that will see them away. Not because of the riches, no, but because that they really have failed to work together. So there's an element of faith. You go to culture. That culture, there's some cultures that beating a woman is okay. They may not come out uprightly and speak about it. But how do you go to your Senga fellow if you're married, saying, I'm leaving my marriage? In some cultures I won't mention, yes, because this man beats me. Your grandmother will tell you, for me they used to beat me, and I even sleep in the kitchen. Those days it wasn't this modern one. If you go sleep outside. I sleep at the neighbors, but I raised your parents. Your mother will tell you, beating, give it time. Wait, by the way, why are you beaten? You get it. So for them, beating may not be an issue. They'll still talk to you, they'll tell the man, they believe it is that. So culture, religion, then we go to society. There are some parts of this country where battering, beating is not a problem. But also we must look at an element. And I always say that much as there is so much attention being given to the girl child, there is little that is given to the boy child.
Yes.
Even look at government today. We believe women are vulnerable in Africa. We believe our historical background, women have situations that are not at the same footing with men. But even when people are going into marriage, so much attention is given to the girl child. How to treat a man, how to do this, how to do that. They have even here the singer. For the men, what happens? Congratulations, Osaja, you're going to marry.
No one actually talks to them on how they should be
treated. How are you going to treat
women?
A man?
You're not supposed to be.
Yes, in all cultures, there is a way they prepare this woman. They even tell them, go to your auntie. Go and they tell you what marriage is going to be, how you're going to be treated. For the men, they're just congratulating you. Maybe they take you for 1 or 2 bottles. But who is giving you how you're going to treat this person? Right from childhood, we bring the boy, you're a man. You know, this is, you're superior, she's inferior. Even when greeting, I remember I had cousins at home that were mature than me, but not, for them they were kneeling. So I had that already as growing up. Okay, I don't kneel. My bigger sisters have to kneel because they are girls, and that is in them. So, even society, now we also have an issue of poverty.
Yes.
That today, you know, much as domestic violence may happen, in homes of elites, it is minimal. Maybe they have psychological torture, but psychologically they go to what they call usirika,
psychology and emotional,
yes,
and
emotional and all that. Go to Katanga. Go to those slummy areas where they live in absolute poverty. It is serious beating that even attracts the almost half of the village to do that.
Now, Robert, I love the fact that you even talk about poverty, but I also tend to believe that the culture system that we have, especially here in Uganda, is quite deeply rooted, especially when it comes to promoting, domestic violence. It does have a very, very huge role it plays. And I also tend to believe that we need to break this. It's deeply rooted. How we are going to uproot that, it's quite very disturbing, but at least we have identified and we know where to start from. But you do also talk about poverty. Robert, during COVID, we saw all these numbers go high, especially domestic violence. And I saw reports where some of these women were interacted with by most of these NGOs trying to talk to them. What is happening? Why is this happening? Why are you being abused? And why are you sticking around in this home? And which clearly explains even what happened in Aweru in the magistrate's court. You saw the shift of events where this woman actually did kneel down and asked, the magistrate, please forgive my husband, because if he's, thrown behind the bars, what's going to happen to the family? Now, that tells you a lot about economic empowerment. Uganda as a country, definitely, we have done quite something to make sure that women are represented at all levels, at least when it comes to politics. But you know that right about now, Robert, women are still struggling to get employment, even just starting off their own businesses, even just something that is going to give them some money to make sure they survive. I mean, I believe that if this was in all regions, because I know people maybe in the central, they have some money and all that, but people in the rural areas who entirely depend on their husbands, these men to be provided for, are still struggling with all this. So maybe we could probably talk about what can be done to make sure we promote women's economic freedom in Uganda, especially in the rural areas. Maybe if they have means of survival, and I'm talking about financially and economically, maybe they don't have to go through all this, because if you talk to most of the women, they tell you, see, I have 6 children. Who's going to look after these children if I leave this man? So the man, that gives the man quite some, it's like a go ahead. It's a green light for them to continue doing what they're doing, because they know that these women fully rely on them. So what can we do to make sure that there is some economic empowerment, especially for the women in the rural areas? Women in Kampala, well, they know how to survive. They try, but in rural areas.
Very interesting. I want to first begin by gaps in the law. When you look at the rural woman, where domestic violence is so rampant, and they are almost entirely dependent on the men, their factors of production rely on land. It is land that if you have land, you can have something to sell. Because many of those women do not run saloons. Many of those women are not vendors or hawkers. Like it is in Kampala, they'll wake up, there's a street where they can put a charcoal stove and have muchomo, have maize, have gonja, and people can come. Like some of those small businesses that we see women engage in town. For them it is land. And when you look at the Land Act, our Land Act fails to, it is very clear that acquiring customary land tenure system to permit women act as co-owners or managers of customary land and creates weak protection for widows to seek to inherit their husband's land. So, already in the Land Act there are gaps that you may find that in Uganda, mostly in rural areas, about 5% of women own land.
Yeah.
Majority of the land belongs to the men. And even when you look at the law, you find that it does not clearly stipulate how women can co-own land. Even when the husband dies, if you look at the law, it doesn't give the woman or the wife sole ownership of this piece of land. It has percentages, the children take this, then those that are depending on the husband take this. So, women to own the major factor of production in rural areas, that we've not been able to conclusively come up with a solution to that. And as long as they don't have ownership of this land, that is why we see them, a woman wakes up, spends most of her time in the garden, then when the crops, actually this is one of the causes of domestic violence in rural areas. When the coffee is ready, the husband comes, goes and sells, and says, but itakaliani, it is my land. I married you into this family, so when you cultivate and I sell the produce, you don't own this land. And what happens next? There are slaps, because the woman feels offended. She's been working, which is true, but the owning land is not theirs. Second, government has tried a number of initiatives that are aiming at fighting poverty. But I think it's a time that these programs have a specific percentage centering on women. Though we are going into the parish development model. Why is that specific inclusion for women? Because they are vulnerable. Women.
Yes.
The men will easily come up with circles. The men will easily go to these meetings. And you may find that a lot of the beneficiaries may turn out to be men because there is money. For a man, when they hear money, much as they are not better managers as women are, according to some of the things we see, you'll find that they'll rush to grab these opportunities. Look at the youth livelihood. Though it doesn't segregate, that women will not, it is open for all. Yet I feel all these financial inclusion policies of government should have some package. If you're going to give 17 million per a parish, if that is what you're going to give to every parish in Uganda, so can you say that out of the 17, maybe let 10% of this money, of the 17 million, be given to targeting that money has been ring-fenced for women? If you're talking of wealth creation, by then, that you're going to have to give 100 cows, let you say that no, out of the 100, maybe 50 cows are going to women groups. This must be a must to women groups. This amount of piglets so that we look at how we can empower this local woman, that there is that opportunity where she's not going to compete with the man to get the benefits that government has put aside for that.
Well, there you go. And of course, like we always said, this is never a one-man, responsibility. We need to be very vocal about this. And also one thing actually we do forget is that even men, there is violence against men. So we need to make sure that everybody stays in peace. It's quite a long journey that we still have to travel, but I believe that there's
as long as we are honest.
Absolutely. There is always a first step
because when you
to
talk
everything.
about men, I want to tell you, in Africa, it may be very hard to find a man who will confess that they are battered at all.
Yes.
It is very hard. We must come out open. But the good thing is that the women are very vulnerable. I was joking with my colleague here before we went to the show, telling that a man may be short, may be thin, may be tiny, but at the end of the day, they could have the muscle to defend themselves. So the women are more vulnerable to this. And I think we've seen more women lose life, more women lose body parts, more women live pathetic life than men when it comes to issues of domestic violence.
Wow, there you go. Now the poll question is still running, and that is, how can the refugee influx in Bunagana be managed? Definitely we'll be getting into some of your feedback, and it's also very important to remind you that we are still mourning the death of the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, which, by the way, barrier arrangements have been put out by the state, by the Minister of the Presidency, that is Millie Babalanda. Just to take you through it right from the very start. Definitely it's going to be a jam-packed week, but I will just take you through some of these funeral arrangements, where starting with Friday 1st of April 2022 at 2 p.m, the body will arrive at Entebbe International Airport aboard Ethiopian Airlines, and the casket will be received with full honors Of course, a few leaders and family members will be allowed at this ceremony. And immediately after, the casket will be handed over to A-Plus Funeral Management, who will be handling all these things. And after that, we'll see the processions that will be going on. Of course, that will be Friday, and we'll be getting into the next week where we'll be having quite a number of other processions. And Sunday 3rd and Monday 4th April at 9 a.m. the body will be lying at the home of the speaker in Muyenga, where friends and well-wishers will pay their last respects. Now, there will also be a small service conducted and attended by few peoples on Sunday. Of course, they did actually say that all these ceremonies will be held under strict standard operating procedures because of COVID, and to make sure that we avoid all instances where all this will be happening. Now, after that, that will, of course, on Tuesday, 5th April 2022 at 9 a.m., the body will be moved to the Parliament of Uganda, where the Right Honourable Speaker will lead the members of Parliament to pay their final respects. And then the body will spend the night in Parliament. And on Wednesday, 6th April 2022 at 9 a.m., after the ceremony at 3 p.m., the casket will be airlifted to Omoro Lalogi village. And the speakers, of course, this is the speaker's ancestral home, where it will be received by the family and the Acholi leaders. Of course, there will be a night vigil at this home. And then 2022 at 9 a.m., the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, His Grace Dr. Kazimba Mugalu, will be the main celebrant, and a maximum number of 1,500 persons, including members of the executive, members of Parliament, and members of the judiciary, foreign dignitaries, heads of government ministries, departments, and agencies, and of course, family members and leaders from Acholi sub-region will be able to access the ground. Again, like I said, this is all going to be under strict standard operating procedures to avoid all incidences. And of course, Sunday 3rd and Monday 4th April at 9 a.m., the body will lie at the home of the speaker, like I did tell you earlier, in Muyenga, where friends and well-wishers will pay their last respects, and there will be a small service conducted and attended by few people on Sunday, so strictly by invitation. Otherwise, if you decide to make your way there, it may not turn out so well for you. And then Tuesday, 5th April 2022 at 9 a.m., the body will be moved to the Parliament of Uganda, where the Right Honourable Speaker will lead the members of Parliament to pay their final respects. And then the body will be able to spend the night in Parliament. And of course, that is just over there at Nile Avenue. And everybody who wants to pay their respects will definitely come through. And then Wednesday, 6th April 2022 at 9 a.m., the body will be taken to Kololo ceremonial grounds for a state funeral. His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda and the NRM National Chairman will lead the nation in paying tribute to the late Speaker of Parliament. And of course, after Wednesday, after that, there are definitely other activities that are expected to be happening right after that. Remember that this is all happening all the way till Friday, when he will be put to rest finally. And still on the same day, on Wednesday 6th, the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, His Grace Dr. Kazimba Mugalu, will be the main celebrant, and a maximum number of about 1,500 persons. Now that includes members of the executive, members of Parliament, members of the judiciary. We have the foreign dignitaries in there, heads of government ministries, departments and agencies, and family members and leaders from Acholi sub-region. Now all these will be able to access the colonial grounds. And Wednesday 6th April still 2022 at 9 a.m. after the ceremony at 3 p.m. the casket will be airlifted to Omoro Lalogi village, the speaker's ancestral home, where it will be received by the family and Acholi leaders. And of course, there will be a night vigil at the home, and you know what happens to pay final respects, but all this will be at his ancestral home. Now remember, this will be still Wednesday 6th April. And then on to the next day, which will be Thursday 7th April 2022, the body will lie at Lalogi, and that is for final respects by the members of the public. And of course, after Thursday, we go to Friday, 8th April 2022, where the burial ceremony will be starting at exactly 9 a.m. And like we told you earlier on last week, the day will be observed as a public holiday as declared by His Excellency the President. Now, may the soul of Honorable Jacob Olanya rest in eternal peace. But again, as UBC TV will be giving you all these details as they unfold day by day. As you can see, it's going to be quite a busy week, right from Friday to the weekend until the body of the late is finally put to rest in his ancestral home. Well, we're going for a short break. When we get back, we'll be talking more about what's happening in the papers. That is the New Vision, Daily Monitor and Daily Nation. And then we'll be looking at some of the traffic updates. How is it faring on the roads? And the weather lady will be coming in. I call her the weather prophetess, and she'll be giving you more concerning the weather focus for today. And of course, more in the arena of climate. We'll be back.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
In March 2018, Total Energies launched the Welders Training and Certification Program aimed at improving the employability of Ugandans from the Albertine region and East African crude oil pipeline areas.
GIZ E4D project is working with Total Energies, where we are targeting to train at the end of it 350 welders, and we're expected to train more.
I see myself working maybe in the oil and gas industry, being an international certified welder. Of course, I'll have acquired the skills.
I'm a lady, but doing something which is generally perceived to be for men. It makes you actually feel special. It makes you feel wow.
I am ready to support the oil and gas sector by being a quality welder. I thank you, Total, and I thank the government of Uganda.
Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
When COVID came, it felt like it destroyed everything my mom had built. She was ready to let go of her dreams. But when one door shuts, a window opens. She grabbed her last kamani and took a leap of faith. She refused to give up. So with a bit of daring and grandma's secret recipe, her business was back. And not just bigger, beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Nature that nurtures our life on Earth determines the geographical surrounding that should be protected and preserved by the community.
This is the time we partner with UBC and protect the environment.
Our Environment is a program that will showcase the importance of human responsibility in a healthy environment, that is to say, conservation, waste management and recycling, disease prevention, biogas, to mention but a few.
Support the program Our Environment on UBC.
Inspiring Uganda.
big story over there being government slashes budget for Olanya barrier, and the government has been boxed back, to the drawing board after this. Of course, people exposed. There was quite an exposure. An overblown budget for the barrier of Speaker Jacob Olanya. And there are very many other things that were put in and also slashed off. And the benefits Olanya children and spouse will get are also over there. And taking a look still in the news section, the Democratic Republic of Congo joins the East African community, which has been quite making news for the last couple of hours. And there is also a pullout excel in PLE over there, and homes who should be involved in your land transaction. Now, Sorority CME's twin turns one, and we've no money to hire more doctors. This was Atwini, the permanent secretary, and that is the Ministry of Health. Gunfire rages as more Congolese flee, and the lizard over there doing the most, where they say we have no money to hire doctors, but we have money to bury the dead. Well, quite interesting. Onto the second page, Museveni woos French investors, and taking you back in history, orders Israel embassy to close, and also still in history, US president survives assassination attempt. All this in the Daily Monitor this Wednesday.
Well, and over to the New Vision, still looking at tension as more DRC refugees enter Chisoro. Now, there is more on that story on page 8 of the New Vision for today. But also, the Acholi legislators defend funeral budgets. And an interesting story right there on page 4 of the New Vision for today. In a big headline right there, final barrier plan for Olanya. They even draw for you a roadmap of how that is going to play out right there in all the steps. But also at what entry into ESC means, that is for DRC. That whole story is on page 3 of the New Vision for today. In Spotlight, you look at police cited in mechanics rackets. Well, interesting right there. If you move past Chiseka markets in Kampala division, there is a lot of more to the mechanics right there. But much of the story from page 6 to page 7 of the New Vision for today. Now, Army speaks out on Karamoja security. They are saying the insecurity and killings in the volatile region are being handled by security right there in the New Vision. You can check it out. But also on page 2 of the New Vision for today, 1,000 graduates to get training, and that is also in prospects of business opportunities right there. Well, today in history, March 30th, 1972, Mayor Obote asks to be allowed to go abroad. There is much more to that story that you can look into just on the column of today in history. And also, same in 1999, Washington hails Obasanjo. Well, interesting right there in the New Vision.
And in the Monitor Sports, we take a look at the 1998 FIFA World Cup. Beckham knocks out England. And still on the countdown to the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. About 236 days to go. Villa eye giant step. Police into dog fight. And well, UCU Cardinals struggle to ignite the FWSL title race. And of course, we still take a look at Makere Ndeja. The Ndeja is set for University League return. All this in the Monitor Sports this morning.
Well, looking at the New Vision Sports, there are new plans, that is according to the Uganda Olympic Committee. And right there, they're looking at the 7-year strategic plan, which will address challenges of insufficient resources. And they give you a picture right there of the Secretary General of UOC, Beatrice Anyiko, also gifting right there. But also in the netball decade of dominancy, more on the sport dominancy in the country, the Ugandan netball has its own giant right there. They're also giving you more of what has been happening in the first 5 of the netball team right there. But also much more is they're still talking about the turning back. Football is my passion and there is no turning back. That is the women football league right there. And also the retired player, Jen Seninde, and they're giving you a whole picture of the team management with her right there.
And into the Daily Nation, well, competition is fueled by a scramble for the few vacancies in national schools. Private schools top county KCPE charts. Now, of course, this is in relation to the results that were released yesterday. And in the national news over there, Raila denies piloting Uhuru impeachment. Well, quite interesting. And still something coming in from the business segment, that is the KQ Hubs losses on post-COVID recovery, and more details inside a story, and that is quite a classic. Wish that you could get yourself all this in the Daily Nation. You can grab yourself a copy. Now, just taking you to the poll question, how can the refugee influx in Bunagana be managed? Now, from you, Tabu Joseph, you say key stakeholders working keenly and closely together, and the Office of the Prime Minister should take lead. Beside, the cause should also be looked at now that the Democratic Republic of Congo is part of the East African community. Now, peaceful solutions should be sought so DRC people return to their respective homes. Of course, as more feedback comes in, I will definitely be sharing it with the rest of the world. As Good Morning Uganda still goes on. And time to go to the roads. Quite a very cold Wednesday morning, but also a wet one. And definitely the rains were quite heavy. They did take the biggest part of the night, which clearly means that there is quite a traffic buildup in several parts of the city. Now, this morning, I am going to be focusing on areas of Muyenga, Chiwafu, Makindye division, that is, and Chirudu, Gaba, Lukuli, Luwafu. If you're coming in from those spots, if you're trying to get to the city using these areas, or if you are a resident, well, this morning is for you. And I want to sadly inform you that it's not really a good side, because from what I can actually read here, the red spots are quite very dominant in several spots. Yeah, of course, there are some green stretches showing you that some of these roads are clear, but there are hiccups as you go on, as you're trying to access the city center. Now, coming in from Chirudu, maybe if you're coming in from Gaba, the roads are quite clear. The green stretches are they are there, they're very visible, but there are some red spots here and there as you continue to make your way to the city center. Now, the green spots definitely to highlight how heavy the traffic is in that given area, and also the orange showing you that regardless of the green stretches, definitely there's some traffic buildups as clearly portrayed over here. And you should note that whether you're in these areas where the traffic is building up, there are high expectations for you to get into the traffic that is quite heavy in some of these areas, like over here as you're trying to access the city center. But also, if you're coming in from Buziga, it's quite a clear road. Of course, a few orange spots here and there, traffic buildups. They cannot miss out, like here on Nukuli Road, where the orange spot is quite visible. But as you go ahead, the green stretch is quite a good one for you. But as you continue, you need to expect several of them, like over here as shown, orange buildups over here. Traffic, meaning that everyone is trying to struggle. And it's always crazy, because when it rains, everybody's trying to make sure they access the city center. For some reason, the cars are many, the motorists are many, so it's a whole chaotic situation. However, if you're also coming in from the upper side, and that is Chiwafu, you need to expect quite some traffic over there. As you can clearly see, some of these red spots are here dominant, just a few meters away from each other. So while you are struggling to get out of one spot, you need to be ready with the fact that you're going to jump or get yourself into another traffic spot. But yes, you need to know that so that you can manage. If you're trying to leave your home, maybe you need to plan accordingly. Chiwafu Road is it's a bit heavy with traffic buildups here and there, but it also should be a good alternative road that will definitely connect you to Gaba Road. Gaba Road, there is quite a junction over here, as you can see, Soweto Road. Now, this is really dominated with traffic. The stretch is overly populated with all these cars. The stretch over here, the red, is quite intense, so you need to be ready for it mentally, and maybe start planning ahead and knowing where you could actually use another option to make sure that you get to the city center. And going back up from Muyenga, if you're accessing the city center over there, Tanki Road is a good option for you. It will still will connect you all the way here, but again, you need to expect quite some traffic build-up here, as indicated by these red and orange spots. Now, Wongo Road is actually a good one. It's a clear road for you to use if you're using the city center. But again, when you use that, it takes you to the industrial area where you have the 6th Street, you have the 8th Street, and all these other streets, and it does not look good. Because over here we have some intense traffic. We do have the red spots, we do have the maroon spots, and just to remind you, when it really shifts from red to maroon, the situation is actually kind of getting out of hand. So you need to be ready for that. Now, all these definitely, if you've beaten this traffic, you will connect to Station Road, which will still take you to the main road. So really, you have to be ready. You have to plan accordingly, and it is. We have a relationship between Kampala rains and the traffic on the roads, and the other day actually we were still going through some of them, trying to identify why this actually happens in most cases. So if you are definitely access the city center, do plan accordingly. Well, still to take you back to the funeral arrangements of the late Jacob Olenya. Well, Friday 1st April 2022 at 2 p.m. the body will be arriving at Entebbe International Airport aboard Ethiopian Airlines. The casket will be received, of course, with full honors, and a few leaders and family members will be allowed at the ceremony. And immediately after, the casket will be handed over to A+ Funeral Management, as indicated that they will be fully in charge. And then on Sunday 3rd and Monday 4th April at 9 a.m. the body will lie at the home of the Speaker, that is in Muyenga, where friends and well-wishers will pay their last respects. And there will be a small service, of course, conducted and attended by few people on Sunday. Now, all this, of course, will be managed under the standard operating procedures. And Tuesday 5th April 2022 at 9 a.m. the body will be moved to the Parliament of Uganda, where the Right Honourable Speaker will lead the members of Parliament to pay their final respects, and then the body will spend the night in Parliament. And from that, proceeding to the next day, which will be Wednesday 6th April 2022, the body will be taken to Kololo Ceremonial Grounds for a state funeral. Of course, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda and NRM National Chairman will lead the nation in paying tribute to the late Speaker of Parliament. And still the same day, the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, His Grace Dr. Kazimba Mugalu, will be the main celebrant, and the maximum number of 1,500 persons, including members of the executive, members of Parliament, members of the judiciary, foreign dignitaries, heads of government ministries, departments and agencies, family members and leaders from Acholi sub-region will access the grounds. And after that, the ceremony, of course, at 3 p.m. the casket will be airlifted to Omoro Lalogi village, the Speaker's ancestral home, where it will be received by the family and the Acholi leaders. And then there will be a night vigil at the home. And Thursday 7th April 2022, the body will lie at Lalogi for final respects by the members of the public. And then Friday 8th April 2022, the burial ceremony will start at 9 a.m. and the day will be observed as a public holiday as declared by His Excellency the President. So all these events will events will be starting right from Friday until Friday, that will be 8th April 2022, and all these will be live on UBC TV as all the events unfold right from day one, which will be on Friday, until his body is finally laid to rest. Well, Mollen also easier to give us more about this weather situation. This cold morning, Mollen, I saw you making movements with umbrellas and sweaters. I was like, this woman was ready. She knew what was coming.
I have to always forecast my weather. I know what is going to happen the next day. It's a shame that Philomena didn't take my advice from yesterday.
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do.
You should also carry an umbrella with you every morning. When I say it's going to rain, it's going to rain. Like, that's how far we've gone in terms of technology. You know the weather is ahead of you right before it happens. But we'll be diving more into that. But for now, I want to take you through what is trending on the international scene in terms of weather and climate. Well, a follow-up on the story that we had this morning on how far we are in terms of wind and solar energy. And from what I can tell you, we have had more advancements when it comes to solar and wind energy. Now, the first being that we have had more of the countries take on wind and solar energy. I don't know, Philomena, what you think of Uganda taking on solar energy as a source of electricity instead of resorting to fuels.
Well, the fact that it saves quite a lot of energy, I think it would be such a big deal. And by the way, this has been something that has been taken on by quite a number of people. I don't know why, especially in rural areas. I know sometimes it's a bit less costly compared to electricity, but also in the fight of climate change, I think it would be a very good idea if most of the households did embrace solar energy, because I understand, I don't know much about, the science behind it, but I know it's good for the environment, considering that we are getting all these from the sun, which is, a natural source of heat and electricity and all that. So maybe if most or if more households embraced solar energy, I think it would be a good move for us. It's high time we started doing that.
Yeah, because now you look into the science with solar energy is that it is clean energy. It is got directly from the sun, so it doesn't leave any side effects whatsoever, which is the one thing we appreciate about it. But also with wind energy, we have seen more countries take on this battle, especially when it comes to countries like Netherlands and Belgium and Australia right now that are being highlighted as one of those some of those countries that have embraced wind energy. Now the question is, how far can Africa go in terms of tapping into these resources for electricity generation? Because obviously this is posing a global challenge on looking into climate change coming up as one of the results of us using the non-clean energy. So if we are talking about renewable energy, top on the list is solar and wind energy. However, there are also challenges that have been posed into the resources and the finances that are needed to make sure that we have the wind turbines. Because if you look into situations like having a whole plant of wind turbines across the country like Uganda, that will take a lot of resources. And I think also the fact that we have now to tap into more of that, including the fact that we'll be looking more into where to get the finances, because all the money that is coming right now in terms of climate change mitigation, it is looking more into how to deal with what is already happening. But I wish that governments should also look into the fact that we can have more of those plants, especially with solar energy, so that we move away from having household panels into a major plant that can supply the whole city. That will be a good step and right in investing money. But also what is making news is that we still have red alert across the island in Portugal, that is in São Jorge, where there has been more evacuations happening over there. And what is coming through from the local authorities right now is that there has been more alerts on the likelihood of a volcano over that area. And what is being said is that most of the places that are likely to hit have actually been evacuated, but also this could hit as big as one we saw in Spain, which is La Palma last year, which was one of those biggest volcanoes that we did see across the area. Now, more than 2,000 small earthquakes have been happening in the past 11 days over that island. That picture that is being shown on the screen, that is São Jorge in one of the Portuguese islands. And according to the meteorological agency in Portugal, they are saying that the earthquake has reached magnitude of 4, and that has caused fears of the tremors, which could cause more damage, and also what is likely is a volcanic eruption for the first time since 1908. And this could be one which is more powerful, even being compared to the one that happened in Spain, that is La Palma. But we're looking at areas that could be some of the nearby islands that are already in the forecast to be affected. Pico, Fizal and Terceira, all these are islands that have been majorly visited by tourists. And so far, according to the alerts that have also been given out from the authorities, is that tourists have been stopped from going into this area ahead of what is forecast to be one of the biggest volcanic eruptions of that area. But also the Civil Protection Authority in Azores has concluded that there needs to be more alerts to tell the population around and also coming through, make sure that they do not make it to that area, as it is still in red alert. But also more news coming through following the recent wildfires in Colorado. Now this has already been taking more acres of land that is across Colorado as well as Texas, and it has been looked at as one of also the biggest wildfires across that area, you know, in the history of wildfire seasons across the area. Now this has been fueled by drought that has been raging across the eastern side of USA, and according to the meteorological agencies over there, they're also reporting that this has been fueled mostly with the variations in the climate over the area, because the drought that was there even in the recent month has only been increasing, which means this is one thing that has been fueling the wildfires over Colorado as well as Texas. That is making it to records as one of the seasons where they've had to deal with and wildfires of this magnitude. It has taken a lot of acres of land over the area, and this is still worrying when we're talking about climate change fueling most of these extreme weather events. And you look into the fact that it has not only been over there. We've had cases of wildfires across the world, not just in the US, and most of which have been also combined with the heat waves that we did see even from last year. And also we talk about cases of extreme weather events like the floods, like the tropical cyclones that we have seen even here on the African continent. And not to mention drought cases are still ongoing. Even when you look at the northern part of Africa, the Sahel region has been battling drought cases for a long time, and that is something that we are talking about, to see that we have to get climate action. We have to make sure that most of these variations are actually off the table. But away from that, we also want to tap into the weather that is happening across the world, looking into the satellites specifically over Uganda, and seeing that we did start off with that rainy system in the morning. That system is still right there over the Lake Victoria, but the good news is that most of the areas are starting to clear off in terms of wet weather conditions. Now that was stretching from areas of Kampala, Wakiso, Entebbe, but from the look of things, it seems like that is moving westwards, and most likely the areas across the western side of Lake Victoria, I'm talking about Masaka, Rengo, already still having those rains, but those will be continuing into your morning. And you also tap into areas of central across Mubende. Looking at Midwestern across Fort Portal, those areas already having those light rains coming from also the cloudy conditions that are over there. Head and take a look into the forecast for this morning, starting off with the central parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We are forecasting those isolated rains. We already have some of that going on across several places, but starting off with a cool 24, it will be another morning for you to keep that warm jacket. All across the central part of northern Uganda, Gulu, Kitgum, Padel and Adjumani, we're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with a warm 27 degrees centigrade. Now looking at the eastern part of Uganda, Soroti, Kataku, Yamuri and Kumi, we're forecasting isolated showers. Those will be across a few areas, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, and most likely that system will clear as we head into the afternoon. You look into the eastern side of Central, where we have Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke and Ruero. We are forecasting isolated showers. Those will also be across several places. We already have those rains across that region, and starting off with a cool 25 degrees centigrade. That system will continue into the afternoon. Now across southwestern Uganda, across Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi, Rubirizi, we're forecasting those light rains again, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade, and also that system will be continuing into the afternoon, so most likely it will have to be a rainy day for you across that area. Now western parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Sembabule, Rakai, we already have those rains over the area. Those will be continuing throughout your morning, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade. Also another morning for you to have that umbrella with you, and we do expect that system to continue into the afternoon. Now the eastern side of Lake Victoria, we did start off with a little bit of those rains, and it seems like the forecast is also indicating a cold morning at 25 degrees centigrade. Now that will be clearing though as we head into the afternoon for more in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions across that area. Now looking at Mount Elgon Highland, we are forecasting isolated showers as well. We already have cloudy conditions developing over there, but we're also forecasting a pleasant morning, starting off with 26 degrees centigrade, and that will be clearing as we head into the afternoon to more of intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now we're looking at mostly a cloudy morning, that is across mostly northern Uganda, but also a sunny morning is forecast for parts of eastern Uganda, across Soroti, Moroto. It looks like we have started off with mostly a sunny morning, while the rest of us are dealing with the clouds and a rainy morning for most areas. But it looks like the southern sector of the country is actually still dealing with mostly those cloudy conditions, which has helped to keep the temperatures down. Now, I don't know whether you prefer to have a cold morning with rains or a warm morning with a lot of sun. Now, that is up to you to decide. But that is what we have in terms of weather. But we do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and later we'll be having sports updates. But you shouldn't forget that we are streaming live on YouTube. So in case you are leaving your TV channel, that is, you can catch us on YouTube, UBC Television Uganda, but also more engagements on our social media platforms. The hashtag is hashtag UBCGMU. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a wonderful morning.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by Authentically Symbolic and Insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong.
How to get points. Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
In March 2018, Total Energies launched the Welders Training and Certification Program aimed at improving the employability of Ugandans from the Albertine region and East African crude oil pipeline areas.
GIZ E4D project is working with Total Energies, where we are targeting to train at the end of it 350 welders, and we're expected to train more.
I see myself working maybe in the oil and gas industry, being an international certified welder, because I'll have acquired the skills.
I'm a lady, but doing something which is generally perceived to be for men. It makes you actually feel special. It makes you feel wow.
I am ready to support the oil and gas sector by being a quality welder. I thank you, Total, and I thank the government of Uganda.
Total Energies EP Uganda is committed to the empowerment of Ugandans to take an active part in the overall development of the oil project in Uganda.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Nature that nurtures our life on Earth determines the geographical surrounding that should be protected and preserved by the community.
This is the time we partner with UBC and protect the environment.
Our Environment is a program that will showcase the importance of human responsibility in a healthy environment, that is to say, conservation, waste management and recycling, disease prevention, biogas to mention but a few.
Support the program Our Environment on UBC.
Inspiring Uganda.
When COVID came, it felt like it destroyed everything my mom had built. She was ready to let go of her dreams. But when one door shuts, a window opens. She grabbed her last kamani and took a leap of faith. She refused to give up. So with a bit of daring and grandma's secret recipe, her business was back. And not just bigger, beyond her wildest imagination.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is how we play. Play with power.
This is how we do it.
How we put a team together. This is how we pass on greatness. Because with this team to inspire us, there's nothing we can't do.
Go for goals and win! Buy a Pepsi glass bottle or Pepsi Max 330 ml. Check another crown and win soda, TVs, caps, t-shirts and cash. Redeem prizes at any Pepsi depot or truck countrywide. Terms and conditions apply. Pepsi, for the love of it.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Twelve minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda agenda. My name is Philomena Mastiko and I'm joined by Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. Now, before we dive into the discussion this morning, we did ask you a poll question, and that was, how can the refugee influx in Bunagana be managed? Now, these the current incidences that are happening, or the occurrences that are going on, especially with what is happening in Congo. Robert, we clearly know that the M23, the rebel group, that has is quite having a hard time, especially with the army of the Congo government. And of course, with all these insecurities, definitely the citizens have to make sure they find a way to survive. They don't want to be part of that. Now, we have quite a number of them that have fled into Uganda. It is actually estimated that right about now, the number of the Congolese citizens or refugees that have entered Uganda has escalated right from about 13,000 to 15,000 refugees right now. Now, we know that we've had a history of having quite a number of refugees in the country, Robert. This is not only about the Congolese. We have Sudanese. At some point we had even Rwandans. We had, a number of other refugees from other countries, Ethiopians as well, that were getting into Uganda. I would just want to know, why do you think Uganda is actually one of those destinations that some of these refugees actually seek to make sure they come and settle here?
Well, when we talk about the refugee problem in Uganda, it dates way back for the last, actually, maybe a decade. We've had our open door policy in Uganda that welcomes refugees. And Uganda in Africa is ranked #1 with over 1.5 million refugees. So in the entire Africa, we rank #1 as a host community or a host country. In the world, we are ranked 3rd. That is, we are just next to Turkey and Pakistan. So even when you look at, you've talked about that we've had refugees from a number of countries. Maybe today we are just looking at those coming from Congo. But when you look at statistics from, that is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, that is the refugee agency, you'll find that South Sudan, we have about 943, we have 943,991 refugees from South Sudan. Democratic Republic of Congo, we have 400,000.
That is from the Democratic Republic.
Over. Now, when you come to Burundi, you have 51,899. Come to Somalia, 50,290. Rwanda, 25,507. Eritreans, we have 18,468. Come to Ethiopians, we have 3,000. Sudan, we have 3,005. So the numbers are so many. We have, to be more precise, we have from South Sudan, we have from Rwanda, we have Burundi, we have Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia. So that puts us at that global level. But you've asked, why Uganda? One, when you look at all these refugees away from particularly Congo, where one would say Chisoro border is very near.
Yes.
For example, Somalia, where we beat of numbers of refugees. When you have Eritrea, Uganda is not the nearest
it's
there.
Not the nearest.
Burundi. It is because of our good refugee policy. And this policy you may not find anywhere in the world. Very few countries, including the developed world, do not have a refugee policy as good as what Uganda has. When you look at our refugee policy, first it begins with open door, that we allow everybody, as long as you're running away from trouble, you're running away from war, Uganda, our arms, our doors are open to receiving you. But upon receiving you, our policy goes ahead to grant freedom of movement. That is one. And the right to employment, education, and health, as well as the right to start a business. Government also provides refugees with plots of land so they can farm and construct shelters. It empowers refugees to become economically self-reliant while granting them the same rights as citizens. No country in the world where you're going to go as a refugee have the right to employment. Government allocates you land, plots of land. You have the right to education. You have the right to become self-reliant. That is why when you move around downtown, you're going to see Congolese refugees selling bitenji. You know, many of them. When you move to some of these refugee camps, you're going to find they construct shelters. They give them plots, small plots of land to cultivate. They come, they sell the food, even to the locals. They have liberty. There is free movement of refugees in Uganda. You go to nightclubs, they are there. You go to places of worship. If you look at many churches by Congolese here in Uganda, establishment,
yes.
Congolese churches. When you go to businesses, actually, refugees employ Ugandans in their businesses. Some countries, when you're a refugee, you're not allowed to work. There isn't that free movement that you can move from any part of the country to any other when you have a refugee permit, as it is in Uganda. So this sweet, good policy of Uganda is what makes it the best destination for anyone seeking refuge to run to. And of course, coupled with the security of our country, because no one can run away from M23 rebels that are capturing barracks after barracks in Democratic Republic of Congo, then come to Uganda when maybe there is a Joseph Kony somewhere, or there is ADF in this area that is killing people. So peace and that good policy are what have made Uganda number 1 on Africa and 3rd in the world.
Well, the refugee policy indeed it's a way of enticing. It actually entices most of these refugees to come to Uganda. But also let's look at the impact of these. I mean, if we keep, it's quite enticing compared to other countries, like you did say. And that means we'll quite have an increase, which we're already seeing an influx. And this is not the first time we're seeing refugees come in high numbers. Even last year, even the years in the past, we've seen all these refugees run to Uganda. But what does that mean for Uganda? Doesn't that have an impact on us as a country, and most especially economically, because now we have to also cater for all these refugees in all these camps and all the settlement areas that we are hosting them from?
It's a two-way forward. First, I want to begin with the positives. These refugees, you see, have provided employment to Ugandans. When you look at Office of the Prime Minister, though we've had also issues sometimes with funds given to us, there are many people. When you go to United Nations High Commission for Refugees, there are many Ugandans that are working in this body. NGOs, very many. Wherever there is a camp, there's a non-government organization that is working there. People are being employed there. So they have provided employment to, that is the elite, and of course those in those organizations. But also on the other side, you find that there has been economic attachment. We have refugees that are professionals that run away, and because of our policy, they're able to get work here, so they are contributing to our economy. I know about 2 doctors that are refugees, and they are working. We have teachers. We have all professions that come in, because you know when war happens, it doesn't segregate. Some will go to better countries in exile, in all this, but then there are those that you're caught unaware and you have to run and you end up in a camp. So when they are screening all this, some get these opportunities. And actually, this funding that comes into our country, these monies also have a great contribution to our economy. So that is the positive bit of it. Also, maybe for international purposes, last time we had the Solidarity Summit for Refugees here in Uganda, much as a number of countries came in, committed, and they have not fulfilled what they had promised. But it lifts us to some level, showing how hospitable we are, what a country we are, how peaceful we are. Now I want to go to the negatives. The negatives, first, there is competition for scarce resources. I was told of Bunagana Primary School, where children had gone to learn, only to find that the place had been occupied by refugees.
They had to actually, stop school and told them, you can't go to school right now.
Now imagine that impact. A school is going to be occupied, you know. Then, much as we have an economic benefit, our government, in terms of feeding these people, because United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the refugee agency of United Nations, comes in, but there comes a time of quick response when it is needed. Red Cross will come in to aid the sick and all that. So, government of Uganda, in one way or the other, much as there is a give, there is a spending effect on that. Look at this land. We've had land wrangles. People, land being taken away from the locals, gazetted as refugee settlements. The locals are lacking land. The refugees are settling on this land that maybe would have been locals. We've degazetted even sometimes reserves because there are people coming in. Sometimes, there was a time I was in one of those camps as a journalist. And they told us that refugees increase the cost of living because some have days when they get some money. The locals don't have that money. So what happens? Power to purchase. A refugee can purchase. I'm going to give you a simple example. In Kampala, in most of these areas, who rent those posh houses? Haven't South Sudanese refugees sleep in this country?
They are actually all over the place.
The cars they drive. Because we're not only looking at the refugee in the camp. Actually, because of this policy, some come from the camp and they migrate. They elevate due to hard work. When you move around, you see Congolese refugees moving with jewelry and all this. You know? So, some parts of this country, most of the 5 divisions of Kampala, they'll tell you Kabalagala is expensive. who are making it expensive concerned.
It's the Ethiopians, the Eritreans who are there, the Sudanese.
That's why I love working with you. You know, you know what I'm talking about. You know, when you go to these parts, go to Machi, they'll tell you these houses. And so Zaba Sudani, because a room that was maybe 200, because of the influx, they have the money. The landlord say now, even if I pay 400, Masuda na Jaji Sulamu. Because so they increase the cost of, even in these camps. They have market days. If these people come on market days and they have the money, a pig or what would go for less money, because there is, you know, factors of demand and supply, economics. When there is demand and there is power to purchase, the person saying that commodity will increase it. So competition of the scarce resources, lifting cost of basic commodities is a problem, and even natural resources, sometimes water. Remember, there was one of the camp in Western where they were clashing over a well. That no, we cannot, we even as we have water shortage, now this we can't compete with them in terms of water. So that is a problem. To another level, where we have outbreak of diseases.
Because these are large communities
and they are rushing in.
Yes.
Much as you may talk of screening, I remember, I think it was last month when they first halted them for screening, but later the numbers are overwhelming. So they just say, no, you come in.
Just come in because we cannot do this anymore.
And thinking further, you know, I told you I'm a biblical scholar. When you read the Bible, there is a tribe where Joseph belonged to. When Joseph became king in the Bible, he called for his brothers. It's a long story, I don't want to go back to how it happened. He called his brothers. Now, the land where they went, they multiplied, they increased in number, and they began overpowering the indigenous communities. You have 1.5 and above refugees. These people from other nations reached a time and they were overpowering them. They were taking over what was theirs. They had the beautiful women, they had the money, they had this, and they told them, go back to your motherland. So there are places you're going to go today where these refugees, even in these villages, those outskirts where have these camps, they have taken over numbers of indigenous dwellers, which is dangerous.
Because even right now, there is, like you said just a couple minutes ago, there's some areas that are identified by these refugees. For example, if you probably want to go and rent a house in maybe Mutungo, or you want to rent a house, you know, in Kabalagala, the way they identify those areas, they will tell you, Sudan, you get, they're taking away the...
Some have been called Sudani,
exactly.
Yes. Somalia, you know.
So they're identified by the refugees, not even by the residents.
And this our government should think through very carefully. One time, there was Sudanese went to a bar, and Ugandans were in this bar. I think there was some problem. A war started, but because that area was dominated by Sudanese, when this fight began, the most casualties were Ugandans, not Sudanese. Police had to come and intervene. There was a time, Kabalagala, Machindi, where a certain group of refugees had become a problem. But thanks to our government, I believe now they have tried to reduce in behavior. Our viewers know that I'm talking about. It had become a problem, a menace. But I think there were bilateral, and now the situation is going straight. So much as if we do not look at this, that our open policy is good, our policy is good, but there can come a time when the indigenous people are outnumbered in number.
Robert, would you actually say that this policy has made all these refugees comfortable? Because even at some point, you know, when probably peace is trying to be restored in their original motherlands and you know, their home areas, they actually don't want to return because they feel they have established themselves already in this new country. So could you say that this policy of ours as Uganda, much as it is putting us in a position where we are actually way better than other countries, is it making it comfortable for the refugees not to want to go back to their, you know, to return to their home countries?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Remember President Paul Kagame of Rwanda one time said Uganda should send back all refugees, because what is still keeping around these refugees in Uganda? He was asking, why? Why are you still in Uganda? We've had years of peace. But many would tell you, I can't leave Uganda. I rather go visit, come back. Many have had marriages, many have had businesses, they have established themselves. Some are living better lives than they were living in their home countries.
Yes.
And of course, you know, when a country has been ravaged by war, sometimes not all people can go and fit in well. For a person has been in Uganda for 10, 15 years, you're telling them to go back to an area where they have to start from scratch. Sometimes it's not that very easy. But also, like we said, our sweet policy, our good environment, the stability, because now a Ugandan is guaranteed that there will be peace today, tomorrow, the other day, the other month, year and year, under the current leadership. Because they know if a country has even, we've gone as far as Somalia, where we are the boys, call upon us, we shall come. So what about home? So when you look at all these, the assurances, you have water, you have food, you have, find it hard, much as the reasons that brought them to Uganda could have been settled, many will stay, unless our government looks at that and then says, okay, refugee time should be limited in Uganda. When we feel there is peace, we shall hunt you, we shall look for you, you'll have to go back. But remember our policy, we do not send back refugees. Going back is voluntarily.
Well, isn't there a possibility that we can change this policy? Because, I mean, right now, Uganda definitely said there is the lack of funds. I mean, we've been cut off from the funding of the international community, which clearly now says a lot about the position where we stand as a country, as a hosting country. That means there are certain things we just, actually, most of the necessities we can't be able to provide to all these refugees, security, food, and all that. Over time, the food ratios, I'll give you an example, Robert, have been going down, because I mean, if the funds are there, definitely we'll give you all these necessities. But if we don't have the funds, clearly it's going to be a totally different situation. Now that the funding has been cut off, and we very well know that the entire world has been going through COVID for the last 2 years, very many economies were affected in one way or another. So there is no country that is going to actually prioritize other countries when their own people are going through quite a lot. Now that also clearly plays such a big role on Uganda, or rather a big impact on Uganda, because where are we going to get the funds? We're already struggling as a country to look after our own people. Now that the funding has been cut off, what happens?
Sometimes, yesterday I was watching a clip by the fallen Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya. I found it on one of the social media platforms. And he said, sometimes, as leaders in Uganda, we must think that certain things happen. The Speaker, he said, they wonder, do you have leaders? If you have them, do they take time to think? You know, Uganda stands at an advantage to bargain and lobby using its position in terms of hosting refugees. Do you get me? That because you're the largest in Africa, you're the third in the entire world, that alone gives you a platform on global forums.
Yes.
To bargain, to get a lot. But are we using that? You know? Some countries have small things, but they depend on them globally to have a lot of contribution,
yes,
a lot of aid, because Uganda now you have your own people to cater for, but you have an additional 1-point-something million that you're looking after.
Then yes,
how do you use this to bargain? That no, yes, resources could be scarce, but look, we need you to come to our aid than any other country in Africa.
We are taking on a responsibility
which is not ours.
Yes.
The war in Congo, much as we have the M23, that is the Congolese Revolutionary Army, that is the former Congolese and Tutsi rebel supported group, some say with Rwanda, later and also Uganda. But this is not our war. What was happening in Somalia wasn't our war. Burundi, these are not our battles, but we are the safe haven. So why don't you lift support? If you're giving this one, think of us as a priority. So you have to use something to be your niche to bargain. Do we do that as a country? Because I don't feel we can hold these people. We can hold these people responsible. We had this refugee settlement summit here, and the countries committed themselves. It was only Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, I think, that once mentioned about it in Parliament, and she said when she was the speaker, that what happened, you people? We want you to fulfill your promises. This is not our problem. We are just helping out. We can't be suffering. Come to our aid, but we are not taking advantage of the refugee numbers in our country on global platforms to bargain for what is ours. I think I only saw it once during politics, when I think Robert Kyagulanyi flew to one part and they said he had gone to a parliament address, and the British embassy, I remember, came out and talked about our efforts in Somalia and talked about how we are the number one host community of refugees. So there I saw it coming to the table,
yes,
saying, okay, so you man, what you're saying, when you look at Uganda, it was a very good circular showing why Uganda is and above and should not be stabilized by such.
Well, the question is still running on our social media platforms. Twitter, how can the refugee influx in Bunagana be managed? The hashtag is UBCGMU. And of course, you can feel free to engage with us on our WhatsApp or even send us an SMS text. The number is 0709 602 592 0709 602 592. Now, Robert, as we come to close to the end of this, yesterday the Democratic Republic of Congo was officially welcomed into the East African community. So you would believe that there are very many other hands that can actually come in to help, especially on this issue. Now it's part of the EAC, and definitely we have a lot of issues that we can share and even come to quite a solid agreement on how we can solve some of these issues in the region. The question is, how do we do that? How do the other East African countries come in handy now that the DRC is part of us? I mean, we saw what happened the whole of yesterday. The conversation and talk was Congo entering into the EAC through the virtual event that happened, and we saw quite all these heads of states in all these respective East African countries very happy and excited. Our president himself showing the excitement towards the new member into the EAC. So how do these other countries, how do you think they can actually come in handy on this situation? Because it's going to get worse than this, all right? We know the numbers are still coming in. And of course, definitely we need to start thinking ahead as a country. So how do these other, Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania and other East African countries coming to help?
It is simple. What causes refugees? These are not asylum seekers that the government is persecuting 1 or 2, 3 people and they are running to Uganda. These are running from war. These are not nomads or patrols that are looking for pasture for their animals. They are running from war. War not of spears but of guns. So all that we need is to ensure there is peace in these countries. And when there is peace, you won't have refugees coming into this country. Now, the biggest challenge that we've had in our country, in these countries, is most of these rebel groups causing havoc in one part of a country have support from another part. from another country.
From another country that is within the
Talk
East
of
African.
rebels in Rwanda will tell you maybe some country is helping these rebels to overthrow me. Talk of M23, they will tell you those are rebels supported by this country and the other country. One country is harboring, you know. ADF would have continuously been a problem had DRC not allowed us under Felix Tshisekedi that come in and hunt for them. You get it? So these countries, one, should stop supporting any rebel group. Our differences should be dealt with diplomatically, not by power of the gun. That is one. Second, we should ensure that as the East African community, we have a standby force, not rebels taking over barracks by barracks, and no one is helping them. This force should have gone in, hit them, knock them out. Have a standby force, stop supporting rebels in another country for funny benefits. Handle that diplomatically. Let's just reason, let's just sit and discuss that.
Well, still we need your thoughts, and of course some of you have actually come through to share what you actually think can be done to make sure that the refugee influx in Bunagana can be managed. And from you, Bate, you're saying, well, now that Congo is already in the DRC, the other countries can come in and probably try to handle a certain percentage of these refugees. Well, thank you so much, Edgar. You can also continue giving us your feedback on our WhatsApp number, and of course an SMS text also will come in handy. But Robert, as again we come to the end of this, now we've seen that could be the part that can be played by the other East African countries, but also as Uganda right here, I believe there are certain changes that we need to do to make sure that we're taking a number of people that we can actually manage, because now this is going to get out of hand. Now that we don't have the funding, people are struggling, economies all over the globe are struggling. But what can we do differently here in Uganda to make sure that we try to sort this issue right from home before we expand it to the rest of the world? What can we do right here in Uganda?
Basically, for Uganda, we must revise our policy. You know?
Yes.
How do we ensure that where there is peace, they go back? That is
not for them to stay over time and be very comfortable, and
then you should be letting out.
Yes.
That is one. Two, also this policy needs to be revised. There is so much that is very enticing. Why don't some go to remain? Why isn't Kenya having a big number? Why isn't some of these other countries that have relative peace when it comes where we share open? It is so welcoming, so enticing in one way or the other.
Well, they handle what we can only take in, what we can handle, and of course, as they always say, you can only chew what you can swallow. Definitely, we know what's happening over there in Congo, but also the spokesperson for UPDF, that is Brigadier General Felix Robert, said that we don't have to worry about security, because definitely if a country, a neighboring country is going through this, the fears, especially coming in from communities that are surrounding these areas, what happens to us? I mean, the M23 somehow could actually come in.
What is very interesting there, he came out and said the road construction that we had embarked on has stopped. But
and they did actually carry their machinery away from the side of Congo. It's back
so
in
you see the impact of such wars.
Well, I don't know, but I hope things can really stabilize. But this has been happening, by the way, for the last couple of months, and the numbers coming in Congo have been growing progressively. Only that the last couple of 2 days, the numbers have really grown intensely. We can only hope that peace is restored in these areas and people can get back home to where they were fully established, because it's also very inconvenient to make sure that you find yourself quite a comfortable place in a foreign country, Robert. It's not something that anybody can adjust to. Well, we can hope and pray that things really get back to the way they were. Well, that's it from Good Morning Uganda agenda this morning, but we have some sports updates that are coming in just in a few seconds from now. Of course, that is with Ruben, who will be giving you all these from netball, basketball, football, I don't know, all these kinds of sports. He'll be giving you all these updates. And also look out. I think he has Ludo. If he doesn't, maybe he needs to start incorporating it in the
For
sports.
us, there are some sports indoor games for hours who are told now.
Well, it's also very important for you to know that we're still mourning the death of the fallen Speaker of Parliament, that is Jacob Olanya. And like we were telling you earlier on, the burial arrangements are all out, as of course announced by the Minister of the Presidency, that is Millie Babalanda. And the activities are going to be kicking off on Friday after the body has arrived at Entebbe International Airport. And that will be at about 2 p.m. And of course, all days have been delegated, and we have events happening every single day until Friday, the 8th of April 2022, when the body of the fallen speaker will be finally put to rest in his ancestral home. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Have a great and a wonderful Wednesday morning. Good morning.